Dear Nicolás, President of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, dear Luis Arce, President of the Plurinational State of Bolivia, dear Daniel Ortega and Rosario Murillo, Co-President of the Republic of Nicaragua, dear Mr. Skerrit from the Commonwealth of Dominica, dear Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and lastly, Prime Minister from St. Lucia, Philippe J. Pierre. Dear Excellencies and other representatives of our Bolivarian Alliance and our sister from Honduras, represented by the President Xiomara Castro. I believe the initiative from the Secretariat of ALBA is fundamental in order to exchange regarding the different challenges of our region. A few hours after taking oath, President of the U.S. ratified the list of states that are sponsoring terrorism without any real argument or truthful justification. They knew what it means for Cubans to be excluded from that list of states that sponsor terrorism. That's why we would like to thank you for all of the work we have done so we were eliminated from that list. It is something that had to be recognized by the previous administration of the US. Since they had recognized there was no argument or reason to keep us in that list. We must also take into account that this is not only regarding Cuba, but also all Latin America and their Caribbean, which are under a threat, and only with cooperation we can articulate and dissemble the actions that are behind that threat. Only a few years ago, we were witnessing such dangerous interference actions, and now the administration of the US is intending to present those options to our countries, which is either to subdue us or make us instruments of their aggressions. And that's why the new administration has shown their dismissal and reaction toward Latin American and Caribbean countries through lies and manipulations. They use pejorative and racist terms and label millions of innocent citizens as threats only because they are Latin American and Caribbean. And they also have reaffirmed other decisions like the unilateral coercive measures. We believe that faced with such a panorama, we must discern between the rhetoric and the words of those figures. Only a few hours ago, in the World Balance Forum, we shared a crucial reflection on how we should act when facing such challenges. And I would like to quickly read something wrote by Jose Marti. Peoples nor men will respect the governments that do not respect themselves. We must continue moving forward to see if we resist or if we are weak. And that's why we must face those who dare to go against us. There's no one amongst us that should not resist, that we must endure together. End quote. So I think that with the guidance of Fidel, he used the thought of the thinking of Marti, which is filled with solidarity and anti-imperialism. We must not be provoked by the new administration of the US, and we must dismiss everything they want to impose. We must continue analyzing their actions and giving our responses when needed, the same way it was done by Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, and Raúl Castro. in the face of the current political panorama, we will see the worsening of different actions and circumstances between the US and Latin America. It is not just a theory. This has been explicitly expressed as a threat against our territory, as it has been done towards the Panama Channel and everything they want to do to rewrite the geography of our region. And that's where we can see the differences and similarities. During the first administration of Trump, we saw the polarization of the different structures, and a number of countries were designated in order to rebuild other structures according to their ideology. Let us not forget, and here I have some notes on that, that in the previous administration regarding migration, with Donald Trump between 2017 and 2021, they provoked and defended building the wall in the border with Mexico. They also fostered the zero tolerance and family separation policies, which separated children from their fathers in the borders. It also provoked the restriction of asylum seekers and protection programs, as well as the program that forced asylum seekers to stay in Mexico while their cases were being reviewed. It also reduced the number of asylum seekers that were staying in the US territory. And back then, they also intended to eliminate the DACA program, which protects the children that were undocumented and that entered the US territory when they were children. And this was then blocked by the courts. However, this is the example of their critical narrative against migration with the justification that they are a threat towards the safety and employment of US citizens. This, of course, had lots of criticism because it had a nationalist point of view, trying to put the US first, as they claimed. Cuba wishes to see a regular, orderly, and safe migration that is aligned with human rights. We also defend the preservation of CELAC as a legitimate space for dialogue and political coordination of the countries of the region and maintain its principles, which is fundamental today. In the framework of ALBA-TCP, we shall have the strengthening of the economic agenda of each country. Now, going back to the issues related to migration, we would like to reaffirm our point of view. For us, it is unacceptable to have the aggressive deportation of citizens, the continuous violations of human rights, which are used as a political tool for blackmailing the countries of our America. Having a center in the North American military base in Guantanamo is a barbaric act. And of course, it is a threat to the national safety of Cuba because this is part of the Cuban territory and it goes against the will of our people and nation. It also has a torture center that has been condemned by the international community multiple times in the past. That's why we must have a dialogue of peace and understanding that needs all of our joint efforts. Deportation of migrants must be done within the framework of bilateral and multilateral agreements by safeguarding the sovereignty of all of our countries as well as the non-interference principles. All of the migrants from Latin America that went to the US are there because they wanted to address the needs that the economies of their countries were not able to do. And in the case of Venezuela, as President Maduro has said, because of the sanctions that have been imposed by that government. In the case of Cuba, they have offered a privileged treatment to Cuban migrants that go there, as well as the economic blockade and the maximum pressure policies that are completely depleting the quality of life of Cubans. This is not only an isolated issue, but a sample of the issues of the international community system, and this is also a sample of how selfish they are and the discriminatory policies that are being imposed, as well as other actions made by the Trump administration, like leaving the Paris Agreement, the World Health Organization, and within the environmental crisis we are facing, this will be a challenge for advancing towards that objective. That's why we must strengthen the responses we give from the South, as well as the coordination response from our region and our capacities to have consultation, and that's something we should address in this meeting. The concept of unity and diversity that has been expressed by Raúl Castro in the past, as well as SELAC and other mechanisms of integration, are more valid than ever amongst the different attempts that have been done in order to divide us, which are fundamental for our nations, and the counter anti-imperialist offensive must respond in order to strengthen cooperation and dialogue. The strategic 2030 agenda of our alliance that has been approved by our head of a state in April 2024 in Caracas is an example of the efforts and the work of this organization in order to achieve new results. We welcome and support the Agro-ALBA initiative, with which we have a framework agreement on December 2024 that was undersigned in Caracas. And we must now work in the bilateral instruments that would allow us to ensure food security. If we evaluate the different issues of our countries, it is important to include the different elements of technology, of agroecology for food production within AgroAlba. Cuba has also made some contributions that, with a study that was ordered by Bank of ALBA, that will allow us to increase the national agricultural production, that will also facilitate trade amongst our peoples and economic complementarity. In order to achieve that, we must ensure air and sea transportation connection routes. Regarding AI, and here I have some notes regarding this issue. I believe that AI can be a transforming technology that can help the countries from the global south to achieve positive results if we use it in a coordinated manner. There are positive results regarding AI towards the advancement of medicine, of increasing productivity, innovation in services, contribution to sustainability, and contributions to education. However, the use of AI also have some concerns and challenges like the issues of privacy and ethics, the impact on employment, the lack of transparency, and other existential risks. We in our country have approved a development strategy of AI that's based on ethics and aligned with our principles. And we also have a working system in order to support this strategy. We have human capital that's ready to work on this. And although we don't have an infrastructure yet, we do have different research centers that are working on these initiatives. We also have a few projects that we have developed for training and education regarding healthcare, agriculture, and we have also established some alliances with countries and international organizations for collaboration, and we understand the different limitations we have regarding infrastructure of our bloc. The announcement in Venezuela made last month, in December, in Caracas in order to build a center, a research center in Caracas would be very helpful to foster the advancement in this issue that will help us achieve our objectives. I believe if we work in this path with integration, with more unity, coordination, and more wishes to even rescue some of the projects that had a high impact on our countries. And if no one takes us uh, out of that path, we will be able to achieve and materialize the dreams of many generations that have given their energy and actions to us. And that's the commitment we have with the peoples that are part of our alliance, and that's why we will continue working towards the victory. Thank you very much.